Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Power Podcast live stream series. I'm your co-host, Brother Bedford, and once again, we want to thank you for sharing with us your valuable time. Again, it's a Saturday evening, and we know that there's a lot of things that you possibly could be doing or getting ready to do, but I'm glad that you stopped in to spend just a few moments with us to continue to hear these giants that we continue to bring you the best and brightest of Black America to hopefully inspire you, motivate you, educate you, edify you. We hope that you are gaining valuable insight so that when we come out of this time period that we're in, this incubation period, as I like to call it, we should be growing in this period. As we come out of this period, hopefully you'll take the nuggets that have been shared by some of the giants that we brought before you and utilize them, put them into action, and take full advantage of a whole new reality, which we can be at the forefront of. So we need you to do a couple things as we get ready to get started. I'm excited. I got my homeboy is joining us tonight, Dr. Ken Harris. And of course, we're both here with our mentor, Dr. George C. Fraser. And so before we get started and go into the rest of the evening, I need you to do a few things for me. First, I need you to go ahead and type in your name and tell us where you're from. We've been having people joining us from London, the Isles of the Pacific, Africa, Barbados, you name it. People have been joining on, so we want to keep that going. So go ahead, put your name in, tell us where you're from. Next thing I need you to do is go ahead and hit that like, love, and then follow this page. We need you to follow George Fraser's fan page. That way you'll get notified with all of the provocative statements and programs and initiatives that George puts before us almost on a daily basis. It's not a day that George is not sharing something with us that causes us to think. So go ahead and follow this page. That way you'll get notified also for the future podcasts that are coming up. And we still have some more paragons coming before you in just a few days. As a matter of fact, go ahead and mark your calendar. We have another icon walking coming to you this Tuesday, Dr. Ron Daniels. So you definitely want to be here this Tuesday. So mark that on your calendar. And the last thing I need you to do is go ahead and hit that share button. Let everyone know that we are live and in living color with Dr. George C. Fraser and Dr. Ken Harris right now. So go ahead and hit that share button. So without further delay, I want to put you into the hands of our host for this evening, the father of the networking movement and really the catalyst of the whole conversation of building effective relationships and networking in the African-American community, has written 6 best-selling books on this subject matter, has received close to 400 awards. We could go on and on and on. He's received the Lifetime Achievement Award from President Barack Obama. And that's just a short list, but we want to get into tonight's conversation. So without further ado, I want to put you in the hands of our host for this evening, Dr. George C. Fraser.
Thank you, Brother Bedford. This Saturday night, we have a young lion, a servant leader, young brother I have known for many moons. Everything he touches turns to gold. People are scratching in the dirt to try to get him to lead whatever it is they are trying to start. He is an absolute young lion. I'm so proud to have him on the show. He is amongst the elders and amongst the lions of our culture and our community. And we are going to talk about just 2 things tonight. Leadership skills. There are a lot of young brothers and sisters that are looking to lead, and they're looking for the right models for leadership. You're going to be talking to a young brother who started leading in grade school, junior high school, and ultimately to lead the Booker T. Washington founded National Business League out of Detroit, Michigan. He's got a hell of a t-shirt on. No, it's not a t-shirt, it's a sweatshirt. I love his attitude. So this is his attitude. This is if you want to read 2 words that depict attitude, it's attitude. His sweatshirt, you'll see him in a minute, says Detroit versus everybody. Okay, I like that, right? As a man thinketh, so is he. So we're going to talk about leadership skills at the top. We're then going to segue to the main subject, the meat of the podcast tonight, and that is the digital revolution and your role in this revolution. We have a champion in Dr. Ken Harris who understands the future. He thinks in the future. He is not only a servant leader, but he is a visionary leader. So let me give him, as I've given all of the lions that and the lionesses that have come on this podcast. He's now number 18. So we're halfway through. We don't finish up until the first week in June. So there's still some great stuff in front of you. But I want to give him a proper introduction. I have not committed his 75-page bio to my memory. He also was smart enough to send me sort of a truncated short version of his bio. So I'm going to try to do a dramatic read, Dr. Ken Harris, on your short bio. Dr. Ken L. Harris is known for his innovative style and visionary approach to addressing societal and economic challenges within Black and Brown communities. Born and raised in Detroit City, Detroit, Dr. Harris started the International Detroit Black Expo Incorporated, which hosted more than 1,000 exhibitors from around the globe and reached 300,000 consumers, becoming one of the largest expositions in the entire country in just 5 short years. The Honorable Dr. Harris was also elected to the Detroit Charter Commission by 40,149 votes. In a highly contested citywide race featuring 54 candidates. Dr. Harris also served as the president and CEO of Michigan Black Chamber of Commerce, which became the largest Black chamber in the country with more than 3,200 members. Dr. Harris became the 12th president CEO of the National Business League, founded by Booker T. Washington in 1900, encompassing more than 150,000 members and 365 local leagues with access to 2.9 million Black businesses across this country. He's gangster. I mean, he's gangster, baby. I've redefined gangster to mean Black exceptionalism. So when I roll up on you and say gangster, baby, gangster, that means you are exceptional. Dr. Harris graduated with a BA in psychology and an MA in counseling and clinical psychology from Clark Atlanta University, in Atlanta, Georgia, which is one of our renowned HBCUs. He also received a doctorate of humane letters from Detroit's Lewis College of Business and Educational Specialists, that's called an EDS degree, from Wayne State University in educational leadership and policy studies. Dr. Harris earned a dual PhD at Michigan State University in African American and African Studies and Economics, with a specialization in business and entrepreneurship from the Eli Broad School of Business. So that's just the short version. That's a mic drop right there. So I want to welcome to the stage. I want to welcome to the hot seat. I want to welcome to our all-star podcast, as I said earlier, a young lion, a servant leader, Dr. Ken L. Harris. My brother Ken, how are you?
Hey, Dr. George Fraser, it's an absolute honor to be on not only this platform, but not only the stage that you have set with Brother Bedford is not only legendary, it's global in its intent. You all have connected the dots in a way that you have written, but also have envisioned and put into practicality, my brother. Not only have you brought together the best and brightest leaders across the world, you've inspired a new generation of people who need to see, hear, and envision those who have come before them. So I take my hat off to you. Not only are you blessed by the ancestors, not only are you blessed by a global outreach and network that so many people have had the joy to benefit from, but you are also someone, and I rarely do this, called a mentor. And I thank you for all that you have done for my career, starting all the way back in my early 20s when you brought me under your wing and you didn't even think twice. Most people will not know. I was hosting the Detroit Black Expo in the city of Detroit. Man, I ain't had no money, right? I had 2 or 3 little sponsors. We put on our event. I called George. George just got finished rocking a standing room only crowd at some auditorium. I called George up. I'm like, man, I'm a young man. You on fire. We got to get you to Detroit. You know what George Fraser said? George Fraser said, man, look, just make sure I got somewhere to lay my head, and I will drive up from Cleveland to be there to support you, young brother. And I always say, there is no success without succession. So George not only drove up in the middle of the night to make sure he was there for my particular event, and this is when we first started, but because of his leadership and imprint on my inaugural Black Expo, it grew to one of the largest in the country, man. So hats off, brother. Nothing but love. Man, if you need, I got your back. I got your front. You know how Detroit roll up, right? So it's not going to just be me either, man. I'm linked up with some other bad cats and bad sisters. We coming. You let us know. So anybody trying to mess with George Fraser, don't even think about it.
You did a better job, man. I'm jealous, man. That's good. I love that, man. That is. Thank you. You have had leadership skills. I don't know. Well, I think it's a combination not only of an incredible mind, a mind that demonstrates not only intellectual curiosity, but critical thinking. You're a critical thinker. You've used your critical thinking skills to apply them to your innovative and very creative survival skills. So you've moved beyond survival to thriving as well. And again, from the moment I engaged you many moons ago, you were leading, but it didn't start there. That was just the place that I met you at. And so I think as a young leader, you're a Gen Xer, you're at the early stages of a Gen Xer, but you really are an old soul in many respects, and you comport yourself like that, you act like that when you're in the presence of royalty, whether you're in the presence of hip hoppers. There's just a wonderful way you manage your mind, you manage your words, you manage your body, you're always clean as a hotel chitlin, you're always choked up, you always look like $1 million, right? So that must be a Detroit trait, because that's pretty much what Brother Bedford does too, right? So I think there's something about brothers and probably sisters from Detroit. I don't know if it's in the water, I don't know what it is, but it's something about you that others could model. You really are the quintessential model of the 21st and 22nd century kind of African-centered leader that we need. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. This is about educating our people around leadership. There are a lot of leaders that watch this program. A lot of young people watch this program, Gen X's, Y's, and Z's. My first question to you, and take your time, do whatever you want with it. What are the most important leadership values that you demonstrate as a leader?
One, I mean, we don't have time for excuses in today's society. So it's incumbent upon us that we are prepared for the future. And where a community lacks vision, it's a wrap for you. The game is over with. And so it's not that Black folks have never had the opportunity to witness success. We have always been successful. And our story did not start with slavery, George. And so when we know, and I've lectured all over the globe, and I've traveled many moons to Africa, I've been to multiple cities, lectured at 19 plus universities. I did my studies at the University of Cape Town. And when you are have the opportunity to go to your homeland and you are invigorated, not only with the present and sight of so many great souls that came before you, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so we have always been about excellence, going back to the beginning of civilization. We were always entrepreneurs, whether it was hunter or gatherer. We invented how to hunt. We invented the tools that were necessary. And melanated people, Black people, birthed this civilization. And so when I can walk back and know that I come from a people that had not only birthed civilization, but they created not only the entrepreneurial mindset that would grow and span across the entire globe, it invigorated me to not only reach for that same plateau, but to change the game and to disrupt it. So I'm a disruptor, right? When I come into the room, you know, growing up in a city like Detroit, 80+% Black. When I grew up in the mid 1970s, and I'm coming up in the game, I had a Black mayor, Black judges, Black city council, Black attorneys, Black CPAs, Black seamstresses, anything that you could possibly think of power, leadership, and influence was Black. So I don't have no other visual concept from which my ancestors not only birthed civilization, but when I came into this world, not only did I have an example of my mama, my daddy, and 5 generations of educated Black men and women in my family, but I also had the visual from my teacher, or what they would say down in the South, from the rooter to the tutor, right?
Right.
And so my thought of myself and self-esteem is already there. I'm already great. I come from greatness. There is no excuse. Failure is not an option, right? And so when you have that attitude and you step out into the world and you see that this game that's being played on Black people, and you see your people struggling, you have to come into this with your A game. You can't come half-stepping. You got to do your homework. Black progress will be done through Black excellence. So I wasn't a kid in the classroom cheating or allowing someone to look on my paper. I was putting in the work. I wasn't a starting point guard, an All-American point guard in high school, and earned a full ride scholarship to Clark Atlanta University to be a not only a successful basketball player, but a SIAC All-American academic, right? And to not only just be on the basketball court where, again, I was surrounded by the best and the brightest minds in the world in the Atlanta University complex. My teachers were Black. They all had PhDs, JDs, CPA, right? Swagged out, right? To the T, right? Dressed to the nines. When we got on campus, what no, you know, saggy pants, brother, pull your pants up. Where your shirt and tie at? Sisters having, you know, formal outfits. You know what I'm saying? They weren't bootylicious until they could get out before curfew, right? So
Right.
pedigree and the standards that I have come from ancient civilization, all the way through my upbringing, through my family, and everything that I witnessed going through college and chiseling this whole thing off. And I tell you, when I go back to Dr. John Henrik Clark, Dr. Hubert Harrison, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, Dr. George Washington Carver, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, E. Franklin Fraser. I can trace the trajectory of Black excellence where a young man like me or anybody coming after me has no excuse.
Right.
You ain't got no excuse. So to answer your question, I have no choice but to have character as my number one
Right.
influence into this game, right? And more importantly, in this new generation where, you know, we witnessed our ancestors, George, growing up on slave food, everything that we have been colonized to do, you know, that impacts our mind, body, soul, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've transferred that into who I am. And so the leader that I am today is more than just what somebody has colonized other people to be. I have taken eminent domain off of my consciousness, right? And now not only am I in charge of my faith and my soul and everything that's in front of me, I'm coming with my A game. And I'm not associating myself with anybody that ain't coming with their A game either. And I think you used to say it, George, a whole lot of times. Show me your 5 closest friends and I'll tell you who you are. Show me the 5 books that you have stacked up. I got so many books. I spend 30% of my income on knowledge.
There you go.
That's my girlfriend. Matter of fact, when I date a woman, she gets a little jealous because I get real into that book, right? I get into that book and it causes jealousy, right? But that's okay because eventually it rubs off on her too, right?
Right.
And if you don't, then she got to go, right? So
Right.
my whole thing is, and this whole perspective is, I'm a disruptor, constantly innovating. I'm in the lab. I'm not at the club. You know, I'm not at the titty bar. I'm not over here pontificating, as you would say, till ad nauseum. I'm putting plans down. I'm doing my homework. I'm studying great leaders. And that's the only way we're going to liberate the Black community. It is time for a new leadership that is not about personality, but that's about conviction and driving a new agenda that's going to lift the Black race into this new revolution that we're going to talk about. And I will say, stand with this quote: the revolution will not be televised. It will be digitized.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to pick up on that in a minute. You said it in one word earlier. You unpacked it beautifully, but you have character and you have integrity, and you've demonstrated honesty and trust. And that's what leaders do, but you've done the work to build the foundation for that. So God bless you for that. Second question: how have you gained the commitment of your vision from your team? What is it that you do, that you infuse or inject in your team members, right? To get the kind of commitment you need from them to fulfill your vision, or the vision of the National Business League?
No question about it. George, that's an excellent question, and I'll relate it to this. One, I'm always going to level set and set precedent with history.
Okay.
Booker T. Washington was one of the greatest leaders of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
He was 120 years before his time. And I say that because this year we are celebrating on August the 23rd, our 120th year anniversary, in which we'll be doing a tribute and a celebration at the University of Tuskegee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about Booker T, he has a full novel on character. The name of the book is called Character, the Upright Man.
Right.
So how am I going to lead an organization if its founding ancestor who set the platform has already put the rules of engagement out and the art of war has already been established? how am I not going to adopt that into my personal leadership capabilities? So if you're on my team, not only I sit back, George, I watch folk, man, I'm extremely patient. You know, I am like a lion in the woods. I'm waiting, I'm watching, I'm in the weeds, right? And I love to watch a person's action as opposed to their words. I like to see doers. And when I notice talent, I have a quick grasp for talent, right? I only want to be associated with the best. I don't believe in losses or L's. I only want W's, baby. I only want to win, right? So when you look at my dossier, I don't have L's on my dossier. And if there is an L, it was called a lesson, right? But I ain't losing at all because our ancestors didn't come upon us to be losers. We're winners, right? And so when I look at my squad, or what I call a tribe, I expect my tribe to be of excellence. I expect them to be of character, George. I expect them to not only have their personal situation right? Take care of home first, because again, mind, body, soul, and spirit. If your mind is not right, you can't implement a strategy and a plan. You can't be a successful entrepreneur. You just can't do it, right? If you're in toxic relationships, right? Or you hang around toxic people, or you got people who are ineffective in your life, right? And you have to learn how to control your environment. You got to live this, right? If you're not taking care of yourself, you're always in the hospital, you know, you always sick because you're not exercising. You don't have a good health regime, right? I'm a proud yogi, a proud plant-based yogi, right? I eat well. I live it. I work out daily. I do Bikram yoga every single day. I can't do it now, get that hot steam, but I do yoga on a regular basis so that I can align my chakra system correctly, right? Spiritually, I'm meditating. I come back to myself because this is about knowledge of self. So when I'm looking at my team, George, not only am I looking at, is your mind right? Are you spiritually intact? Is your soul competitive where you just into blackness, the arts, entertainment, culture, you name it. I want to know that your existence is blackness, right? Because I can't have somebody around me that's half-stepping or still colonized or still going to the white man for his approval, right? Because the cavalry is not coming, George. The white knight on the shiny horse is not going to show up to your doorstep with a bag of cash, right? The Democratic and Republican Party historically have never done anything for Black folks. So why are we putting our faith in politicians? We got to go get this ourselves. And it's going to come from the community, and it's going to come from entrepreneurs. And that's how we're going to break white supremacy and racism, because our team, our tribe is of excellence, and we're fearless, and we're Black from the core.
Ooh, okay. Let's go the opposite direction. This is the final question on leadership. You've been around a while. You've seen leaders, especially Black leadership, fail. How do you think, or how can a leader in our culture and community fail? What is it? What happens? They rise, they fall. What do you think leads to the failure of Black leadership? I mean, since Malcolm died and since Martin died, we're talking 50 years of vacuum of Black leadership. They say if the fish stinks, look to the head. Leadership, leadership, leadership. How does a leader fail? What does a leader not see and or do that facilitates his or her failure?
No doubt. I mean, look, George, this ain't economics class that I teach, right? This is not a major algorithm or code that we have to create. Leaders fail because they lack mind, body, soul, and spirit alignment. Number two, they're faking it till they make it, right? That old concept is the biggest crock of BS I've ever heard. I hear people go around, man, you got to fake it till you make it. Man, that's BS, right? You got to come with your A game. Because if you in the hood and somebody step up to you, right, and they size you up, any flaw that you have is going to be picked out by somebody that's coming with their A game, right? Me as a former athlete, if I stepped on the basketball court and somebody outworked me, out hustled me, their game plan was better, right? And we may have the same level of talent, right? But I'm gonna pick your flaw out, right? Because this is a competitive world. This is the art of survival. And Black people, we got to get back into fighter mode. You know, all this meek, dossier, benign neglect attitude, you know, towards Blackness. It's either you Black or you not. There ain't no gray area to it, right? So we not half step.
I've never seen any gray Black people.
I ain't never seen no gray Black people. Matter of fact, if they gray, you can't see them, right? In terms of the color scheme. So man, I'm looking at this and where we are today. Black leaders fail, one, because they don't know their history. If you know you come from greatness, from the man who invented medicine, Dr. Imhotep, go all the way back to Egypt, to the Blue Nile, right? To the Nile Valley civilization, right? You can trace leadership back that you have no excuse. If you have not studied Malcolm X, where he comes from, if you haven't studied all of these great leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, W.E.B. Du Bois, I can go through leading up the trajectory till today, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, you name it. Everything is in a book. Pick up a book if you ain't got it in your house, in your community. And a lot of leaders fail, George, because they don't know their history. And the last thing with that is that you ain't real. You know, man, you could pick people out. Your intuition and discernment ability can pick somebody out that ain't real, right? They in it for themselves, right? They faking it till they make it. They think their clothes is going to carry them forward. They think the car or the yacht is going to build a long-term relationship or close a business deal. Man, in this next generation, in this digital economy, none of that ain't going to work, right? Because we don't care about personality-driven economics and politics anymore. We have to institutionalize this movement and move away from the personality. And so if you haven't studied the game, you know, looked at our past predecessors, where they did right and what they did wrong, and studied that, and then innovated into a new movement, then you already behind the 8 ball, my brother. And the 8 ball is black with some white letters, right? So we got a target. I got on a black shirt, Detroit versus everybody. The letters is white because I know what my target is. And that's white supremacy and racism, which was created by white people in the ruling class elite so that they could manipulate and socioeconomically control Black people for the 1%'s benefit, period. Mm-hmm. So now when I'm coming at you, I see you, right? And I got my tribe with me, right? So when you take me out, it ain't about my personality. I got 20 other cats with the same personality and excellence. So when you got this sale to drop, right. You got to come after my tribe now, because when I fall, I got the rest coming behind me. So it ain't about the individual no more. If you on your own island with your own ideas and your own cognac and your own tree, when the storm come by, it will sweep your ass away. Mm-hmm. You got to have a tribe.
Right. That's right. You mentioned something in in the answering of that question, that you have to bring your A game. When you are leading a Black organization, you have to bring your A game. This brings me to just a very simple thought I want to put out there to Black organizations. I've been a part of many Black organizations in my 75 years of living. And I know why Black organizations fail. And I wrote about it in Success Runs in Our Race 26 years ago. I call it my ABCD theory of leadership, Black leadership, the ABCD theory of Black leadership. And you touched on it. When we begin an organization or start an organization, generally speaking, the A people start that organization. They have the requisite skills of the interpersonal and people skills, the dynamism, the charisma, the work ethic. They generally start organizations. And the reason A people start organizations is because A people attract other A people, B people, C people, and D people. Everybody wants to be around an A person. And what happens with that A person in our Black organizations is we work them to death and or they stay too long. And the succession plan are not all A people. There's some B people, C people, and D people in the succession plan, whether they call them vice presidents, vice chairmen, but they are not necessarily A people. And what happens through the interpersonal process is that oftentimes a B person rises their way and works their way to the top of the organization, and they replace the A person that started the organization, drove the organization grew while they were leading. Now a B person heads the organization, and B people are good, but they don't attract other A people. They attract other B people, C people, and D people. And as they're leading the organization, they either pass their tenure, we work them to death, eventually they prepare to leave. In the succession plan are C, D, and E people. And a C person wiggles their way to the top for one reason or another. So now the organization is being led by a C person. C person is okay, but they don't attract B people and A people. They attract other C's, D's, E's, and F's. And eventually what happens in terms of our organizations dissolving and or failing is a leadership issue, because the leadership that is necessary to grow and to drive an organization is really, like you said right from the beginning, you got to bring your A game. And the people leading it are not the A people. So what happens is eventually the organization dissolves. Leadership. We need more young leaders. I want you to just give 3 things that you want to say to young brothers and sisters who are thinking about leading, who want to lead. What in your mind, Doc, would be the prerequisites, the things that they need to prepare to do, the things they need to, in fact, to engage in to begin down or climbing up the leadership ladder?
Yeah, no question about it. And that model that you just put out is why you see most of Black organizations today are ineffective, right? We got a lot of stalemated organizations that bring no value, no impact, or no deliverables that can be measured to the community, right? So we need to really do an internal evaluation of especially organizations that's been around as long as the National Business League, right? But to answer your question, I mean, young people, I'm gonna say this to you, right? If you join an organization and you look at a leader, right? If they don't have leadership like George Fraser and Brother Bedford of the like, where they're surrounded by young talent, walk out the door, because there is no success without succession. And believe me, Brother Bedford and George, or anybody that has come through this line of greatness, Black greatness, has always had someone who looked out, developed, supported, cultivated leadership, and provided them with a platform so that they could be successful. So if you run into somebody 60, 70, 80 years old and they gatekeeping, walk away inform your own, and take their shit over, right? So that's what's going to happen, because they can't outrun you. They can't outthink you if you come in with your A game. You have character, you studied up, and you know your history, and you have looked at the past in order to be successful for the future. Don't accept mediocrity. This is a time where we cannot fake it. We got to come at a level of excellence that's never been seen before. You got to be studied. You have to be well researched. You have to not only be well researched, but you have to take that intellectual knowledge and make it practical so that you can go into the neighborhoods and into the community to lift the community. We are here in our A capacity to go back and lift the least of these. So I don't care about clothes and materialistic values and superficial living, right? I don't care about who likes me. I'm not here to be validated by anybody else. I'm living this spiritual existence in this physical form to deliver and set a platform for my legacy to be left so that the next generation won't have to work as hard. And that's where we have to go in terms of leadership. So guess what, young folks? Everything that you need is already inside of you. That's one. Now you have to cultivate it. But join organizations where the elders and the wise folk care about you, embrace you, want to cultivate you, put you in leadership. Don't have you waiting in line for 20, 30 years. That's insane. People waiting in line till they 62 to get tapped on the shoulder. Dr. Huey P. Newton said the revolution always remains with the youth. Every movement in this country was put on by a young person. Malcolm X in his 20s, Angela Davis in her 20s, Madam C.J. Walker in her 20s. Martin Luther King got his PhD in his 20s. So you can't tell me that young leadership, and this is a sickness going on in the Black community, where you got all these gatekeeping ass Negroes. Negroes with egos will ruin anything. It's time to have a succession plan. And I tell you, the Fraser Network is one place to start. If you ain't went to PNC and you ain't connected with all of the Black talent that George has assembled, and you ain't there with your pen and your pad taking notes, building relationships, cultivating, learning so that you can be noticed and then put in position. And when you call, don't come half-stepping. Come with your A game. That's my advice, George.
Okay. All right. That's a mic drop moment there. The digital revolution and your role. I love the way you talk about it. I love the way you unpack it. Why don't you unpack it for our audience today? How you see it? What do you think of the action steps? Where's the entry point? The digital revolution.
No question about it, George. This is an amazing time in history. One, I want to pray for and give acknowledgement to the ancestors for not only allowing us to see the pathway into this next revolution, but we have to acknowledge, I couldn't imagine if Marcus Garvey had access to technology when he raised $1 million and 2 million members with pennies and nickels in paper stock. Imagine if he had an app or the ability to do a Zoom conference call. It'd be game over, right? When you talk about the Garvey movement. Right. But when we break this thing down in historical context, we missed the agricultural revolution because Black folks was picking the cotton, right? When we got freed off the plantation, we were made promises of 40 acres and a mule. They took the land and they kicked the mule in the ass, right? They gave us a bank, right? The Freedmen's Bank. By the time white folks ran that Black bank into the ground, they tried to get Frederick Douglass to save it, right? It was already done, period. And so Frederick put his hands in the air because they couldn't save face. So we don't trust banking institutions to this day. We would rather go to our barber or hairdresser for banking advice because we know the banking industry ain't never did anything for Black folks. So when this 380 something billion dollars came down for the COVID piece and it missed us, and the 480 something billion dollars this second time around came down and only a percentage of us was able to get that loan, we know that this has affected us, right? But when we look at this digital revolution, we missed the agricultural revolution. A few of us benefited from the industrial revolution, which means personal gain. We achieved educational success, political success, social success. Every time we have tried to enter the economic mainstream of society, they sent Jim Crow segregation, the KKK, and they burnt down our communities, or any economic consolidation was destroyed, because we have always known that economics is the key to our liberation. Mm-hmm. So now we move forward where you have civil, no economic rights. So first, that's a failed policy, right? 50 years later, we still broke and poor, right? But we still fighting for inclusion. Come on now. Then we got affirmative half action, right? Where white women have benefited and moved into the minority status faster than Black folks, right? So we've missed another economic turn in terms of that civil rights movement or revolution that took place. And this next revolution is the digital revolution, and how masterful our ancestors were, because they knew when we got to this point, there would be no borders. There would be no way for you to control us. Every young Black person in America on their smartphone every single day, right? And they realized that this digital economy will not only disrupt everything of the past, but there's going to be a new generation of melanated, money-making, entrepreneurial success in the Black community. The digital revolution is the economic freedom and liberation that Black folks have been looking for. So we need to seize this opportunity. And shame on you if during this pandemic, and I pray that everyone is healthy and sound and everything, but if you just sitting playing video games, right? Or you just sitting around looking at insignificant things that are not going to have an impact on your life, then shame on you, because this is a time to be preparing for the next revolution. And this digital revolution will not have borders. So this will be economics without borders. This will be the Pan-African movement that Du Bois and many others took part of in the early 1900s. This will be on steroids in terms of the Pan-African liberation and connectivity. Africa, the Caribbean, Blacks in London, Blacks in Asia, wherever they are, we can now finally mobilize and come together on a unified economic agenda. And if it don't have money attached to it, cut it. Because it's about the dough, right? Economics will free every other industry or sector you can think of. It will free political, educational, and social liberation. Economics is the center. Don't believe anything else. The hell with politics. But Booker T was right when he gave his speech at the Atlanta Exposition, and people poo-pooed him for it. What he was saying is white folks, take your politics, take your educational institution, just give us our economic platform and let us go over to the corner and do our thing. If we would have listened to Booker T then, we would own every industry and sector. We would own agriculture. We would own professional services. But guess what? He's still alive today, and we get a chance to do it in this digital economy. And it's over with. It's game match, because the lions are ready to come out the den. As soon as these states open up, the pandemic, we coming. We coming, George.
You've done some interesting things with the National Business League in the digital space, and some interesting digital or tech company partnerships. Unpack that for folks. It may give them another reason to join the National Business League if they're not a member already.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Get ready, because when June hit, it's warm outside. You know, melanated people love the sun, and we're going to come out when the sun is out, right? And so not only have we prepared, we've moved the National Business League's entire operation into the cloud. All that old stuff, traditional stuff, is a wrap. We put everything in terms of meetings, events, infrastructure, connectivity, networking, global database, and one thing that separates us from any organization that's out there. The National Business League, which is the oldest Black business trade association in the world, founded 12 years before the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, right? So we were visionary before white folks, right? This organization
founded before the U.S. Chamber, United States Chamber.
12 years before the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and Booker T was an advisor to their formation. Okay, while he was visiting President Theodore Roosevelt, right? You know, he had swag beyond belief. But what we did was take the Booker T model, and we just closed a $1.8 million deal, George, to build out our tech infrastructure to be able to facilitate value and impact, benefits and services, and the needs for Black businesses, not just here in the US, but all across the globe. And the National Business League controls its infrastructure. So our local chapters now are all aligned to the national organization and to our global outreach. So when I push the button, everybody get it. I don't have to go to no state to ask for approval. I don't have to go charter a group. It's already set, George. And this is what I'll do as we kind of wrap up. I'm gonna give some folks some advice, George, post-pandemic.
Please,
Okay?
absolutely.
So I love to leave people with some nuggets, with some gems, right? I know people not watching the George Fraser Power podcast without leaving with gems. I'm gonna set your mind right. If your business is not trafficking e-commerce and digital services, you out of business. Okay, I'm gonna repeat that. If your business is not trafficking e-commerce and digital services, you're done. Pack your bags. Remote work will become a default. So all of you leaders out there requiring people to be at the office, and you know, if you don't check in by 9 o'clock and all that's, it's a wrap for that. You don't have to put even that much investment into that overhead and infrastructure when you can have your entire network be global. So I'm setting you up. Get ready to not only that young millennial that comes in ain't working in your office anyway. They letting you know up front, right? So I hope you got a laptop for them, and I hope you have a internal operation that is technology and digitally sophisticated so that your global team can help your business grow. The other thing, and for the future, many of the jobs will be automated. Automation has been here. What COVID-19 did was speed it up. So all the jobs that Black folks depended on, you're not going to be able to depend on those jobs for the future. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to come back, and you're going to have to reassess how you're going to feed your family. But I would give you some advice. I would say either you start a business or go work for a Black one. Okay, because that's the only way we're going to transition. And as George would say, Black people need to be the #1 employer of Black people. That's a philosophy that George Fraser said, right? That's coming into contact. Telemedicine. We just saw this whole sham of healthcare just shattered, broken down, complete failure from the federal, state, county, city level, complete failure. And who did it impact? Black people. Matter of fact, the healthcare system got so bad that if you went into the hospital, you might contract the disease. So Black folks was, well, I'm not going to no hospital, right? Waiting in line while people coughing, and then you're not going to get properly served. So guess what? The entire healthcare industry is about to be rebuilt. It's got to be re-innovated, and Black folks can play a huge role in the re-innovation of the healthcare industry. And I can tell you, that's going to be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for folks that get in the game. Next thing, goods and people will move less frequently across national and regional borders, which means states have learned that they have to not only be prepared, because you can't count on the White House potentially giving you some funding to make sure that your state don't go bankrupt or the city municipalities don't go bankrupt. So we're going to have to, within each state, make sure that we have the industries and services that we need to be successful. So everything is going to be localized. It's a huge opportunity for folks, right? So I want you to focus on where this thing is going into the future. Also, the marijuana industry is the new oil. All y'all talking about who's smoking cannabis, you need to produce cannabis, grow cannabis, connect cannabis, and take cannabis online, right? Because that's the next oil. And another thing, if you in retail, storefronts are a thing of the past. 80% of retail is pretty much out of business. You see Neiman Marcus, all of these companies, Macy's, everything going out of business. Why? Because services are direct to consumer. If you don't have the technology and digital infrastructure to go direct to consumer, or if another pandemic comes, you don't have carry-out service or an app where you can order food and have it delivered, then you out of business, right? And last but not least, as I wrap up, I just want you all to know that personality-driven economics will not move the future. You got to have your tribe. You got to have technology as the core of your operation. And you must release eminent domain over your mind, over the decolonized white European model of economic success. It's time for Black folks to come up with our own economic model. And most importantly, if you've been educated by just the public and private education system, you will not feel good to be Black. Black people, Black community, Black businesses, we must start educating our own community and preparing them with an entrepreneurial and economic mind for the future. And then I'll leave you all with this. Life is going to be real good for those who did what they were supposed to do. They did their homework. They put their strategy in place. They were working before this pandemic happened. They've been working through the pandemic. And once the post-pandemic is over with, you're going to see a new class of entrepreneurs emerge. And you're going to see organizations and leaders who did not prepare die off. It's over for them. So guess what, George? Thank you, man. I love you. Man, there's so much we could talk for hours, man, because success runs in our race, right?
Amen. Amen.
And our network is our net worth.
That's right.
Right? And
That's
my
right.
job is to make sure this shit click. Love you, man. Brother Bedford, I love you.
Thank you for tying together all the titles of my books. I appreciate that. How can people join the National Business League? What is the process for doing that?
Absolutely. Come June 6th, go to www.nationalbusinessleague.org or just pay attention because we're going to be everywhere.
Okay. And when they join, help them understand what they receive for their membership.
You will receive the liberation. It is now for us to take control of our communities economically. You will have a 120-year-old infrastructure and platform to do that effectively. You will not have to move forward with a personality anymore. You will have an institution as an advocacy arm and a benefits and services arm to help you build capacity, scope, and scale. This is basic economics. So what we've done is it's time to mobilize every single aspect of the Black community around economics. So everyone has a role, whether it's a consumer, a professional, and most people don't know, most of your Black professional organizations have come out of the National Negro Business League, the National Bankers Association, the National Bar. I can go on and on, the National Real Estate folks and developers, all that came out of the National Negro Business League. So guess what? Booker T is alive and well. But guess what? He put together some young juggernauts, and we coming to lift up the next generation. The next generation, you will not have to work as hard. We're going to set this thing up so you can make money, build generational wealth, and we can return back to our original place in civilization as the birthers and creators of entrepreneurship, especially Black women. Let's go.
Amen. Why not now? Right? And why not us? It's about time.
Black,
Brother Becker, do we have any questions?
George, Black
Yes.
business versus everybody.
That's right. Amen. It does. Do we have any questions for Dr. Ken Harris? Do you see anything?
Not right now, George. What we have is a lot of hand claps, a lot of waving, a lot of I agree. We got a lot of people
Lot of
agreeing, but not a
cheerleading.
specific question at this moment. Again, just give that website one more time.
Would you like to ask something yourself?
George, you know, there's so much that was said. I mean, there's a lot to unpack, and we're right at that hour. The only thing that I would add is about the leadership piece. I would just push back on the vacuum of leadership, because I think what's been on display today is leadership from Dr. Ken Harris. And then, of course, the leadership that you provide, George. I think what has happened is that society has shaped the way that leaders are viewed. And so in truth, we don't really know who was the effective leaders until they're dead. You know, when Malcolm was around, people would get on the other side of the street. They didn't say Malcolm was a leader. It wasn't until he was dead that people had a chance to reflect on the work that Malcolm did. And then they said, that's a leader. The same with Dr. Martin Luther King. When he was around in his latter days, he couldn't even attend some of the churches and preach.
Yeah,
They didn't like him anymore. So I think sometimes the view of leadership, so we do have a lot of leaders, but if we let society shape what a leader looks like for us, we miss them. So we have jewels like Dr. Ken Harris. We have jewels like Dr. George C. Fraser. I mean, we can go to Julianne Malveaux. We have a lot of people who are sitting in leadership positions, but based on the way that we view leadership, we don't give them the attention, and we don't give them really ourselves, our sacrifice to work and follow those leaders, because they're giving us sound guidance and principles, but we're not following them because we don't believe they're leaders. And so I think the challenge for us, and I think Dr. Ken has touched on it, we have to change the view of what leadership looks like. And so I would say unequivocally, Dr. George C. Fraser is a leader in that line. And we have plenty more that we can begin to name off. But I just wanted to push back on that, because I think we have great leadership, but I think it's been turned upside down to where we're looking to the wrong places for our leadership. So those who are strong Black leaders, women and men, they're struggling to get the support because people don't believe that they're leadership. So if we could change that conversation, I think we'll be a lot further.
And we got to stop, Brother Bedford. You on point, brother. Hey, look, there's no monolithic way of success, right? Philosophies come in multiple different ways. As long as we are achieving and moving an envelope forward, it doesn't matter who takes the claim. But more importantly, we don't need another Black Messiah. We don't need this great Black hope in the community to lift everybody up. The next movement in this digital revolution is that the movement will be put in the people's hands. Everybody will become a leader. And that's what this next movement is about. If you're looking for that one person to lead you, it's not going to happen. Everything that you need is inside of you. Just cultivate it, develop it, and move forward with your agenda and produce results. And more importantly, keep the community and the next generation at the forefront of your thought processes.
Right. I think the four qualities or the four indications of a potentially great leader of a race is first, the leadership of yourself. If you can't lead you, you damn sure can't lead me. That's number one. The second indication is the leadership of your family.
Yep.
the leadership of your family. If you got 2 or 3 knucklehead kids who aren't crack and serving time in jail and knocking people in the head and ain't doing the right thing, right? You can't even lead your own damn family. So you cannot lead us. That's number 2. Number 3, leadership within the community. Where are you spending your time, talent, and treasure aside from your business or your work and your family? What are you doing with the extra time that you have? Are you watching? Are you one of those statistics that Nielsen talks about when it did its major study on the television consumption habits by race? And Black people ended up watching 40% more television than any cultural group in the history of humankind. We watch on average 72 hours of television a week. That's 10 hours of television a day. Any Negro watching 10 hours of television a day needs their ass kicked, right? So,
with Michael Jordan's shoes.
right. So, this is what we must focus on. That's the third step in indicating your ability to lead, is to lead in the community by properly managing and spending your time with your own, investing your time, talent, and treasure within your own. Fundamentally fulfilling what we have been saying for 19 years at the Power Networking Conference is that we must learn, earn, and return. That we have a lot of us learning and a lot of us earning, but not enough of us returning, and therein lies our problem. Get out from in front of the television, get out from in front of your iPhone or your Android, and spend more time in historically Black organizations, leading those organizations, serving those leaders, watching the model of great leadership so that you can emulate that as you grow and develop and prosper. So once you're leading in the community, a few will rise to the top in leading our race, right? Leading the race. Now, we read about them, we write books about them, there are movies made about them, right? Those are the ones that have led their race. If you look at how they have comported and conducted themselves, some have started from lower than the bottom, but did the reading, did the work, achieved what was necessary to pull themselves up and to take on additional responsibility and leading within the community and ultimately leading our race. So those are the 4 steps I think you need to measure whether you have the right stuff to provide what is a huge void in our community, and that is good and righteous, conscious and woke Black leadership willing to roll up its sleeve and do the work. It's been a rich discussion. It is just excellent to see Dr. Ken Harris so passionate, so excited, so invested, and so involved in lifting his people up and investing his time, talent, and treasure into the upliftment of our people. The brother is a race man. We need more race men. We need more race women, right? And a race man or race woman is someone that has committed to investing their time, talent, and treasure back into their own people first. I wrote this in Success Runs in Our Race 26 years ago. I pleaded with Black people to think race and culture first, but not only, but race and culture first. You must do, and we must do what we must do to survive. They have done what they had to do to survive. And doing that, they have put us in a position of extinction because we have not done what we needed to do to survive. That has to be over. New leadership, young leadership is going to lead us in that direction. Elders like myself will model the behavior that we expect from young people. We will put into place the infrastructures and the systems necessary to do it. And then we will find the successors, and they're out there. There are plenty of you who understand this. And yes, absolutely. So I'm going to close with our Power Networking Conference offer that we make each podcast, limited to 5 people. And I apologize for those who were over 5 on Thursday. I did not call you. That was, my promise. If you're over 5, then if you don't get a call, you are over the number. So my apologies to you. So you now have another chance. So tonight, we'll make the offer, the same offer that we have been making. And as you know, the Power Networking Conference is in its 19th year. It's October the 14th through the 17th in Houston, Texas.
I'm there.
We moved it.
I'm bringing
July.
with
Right. We moved it from July, early July, the first week, 8th through the 11th, to October the 14th through the 17th. I believe that the whole COVID-19 thing will be mitigated, will be minimized by that time. We will have overcome the psychological damage that has been done around social distancing, wearing masks, and being paranoid around being with each other, because we are a hugging conference, we are a loving conference, we're up close and personal, we're in your face. So we're not real good, Black people, at social distancing. I remember that from my old school days, dancing in the basement with one red light to Teddy Pendergrass.
Right.
And social distancing would have not worked back then. And it's very difficult for us now. So we like it up close and personal. So join us at the Power Networking Conference in Houston, Texas, October the 14th through the 17th. An adult registration is $1,500. If you met one person that could help change the trajectory of your life, would that be worth $1,500? Hell to the yes, it would be worth it. You'll meet more than one. We promise you that.
Absolutely.
We want you to bring a young person, 17 to 25, to begin preparing them to succeed Generation X and Y, right? So 17 to 25, we call that the college age period. That's a student. A student registration is $800. You add the student registration and the adult registration, that makes it $2,300. For 5 people tonight, it will be $399 or $1,900 off. Okay? So if you want that offer, you must come through me. You must email me at gfraser@frasernet.com. That's gfraser, Fraser, at frasernet.com. Say I'm in the subject line. In the body of the email, put your full name and your cell number. So all I have to do is hit it and it'll call you, all right? And the first 5 people that do that by email, because it's timestamped, will get that $1,900 discount, will get the conference for themselves and a young person, an adult and a young person, for $399. So that's the offer. And they typically go about in the first 10 or 15 minutes after we leave the meeting. So I want to thank you, Dr. Ken Harris, for sharing with us your passion, your energy, your knowledge, your youthful exuberance, and helping our young people understand. There you go, Black Lives Matter. He put his hood up on his hoodie, in case you don't see him. So thank you very much, my brother. I appreciate you, Brother Bedford. Love you, man. Thank you always for doing an incredible job. If you have any final words, Brother Bedford, if you have any final words, Dr.
Man,
Harris.
I want to send love to the family of Brother Avery, who was murdered while jogging black. And I'm putting on my hood and salute to that young brother who is the person we would have turned this baton over to, or who could be our son or our next leader or CEO of a major Black corporation. Much love to the ancestors. Hey, that spirit, bring them back. And we're going to keep this thing rolling, but we're not going to forget about the young Black men being killed in the street. That's what this is all about. And I love you, Brother Bedford. And more importantly, Mentor George, man, they don't even make them no more like you, brother.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we're going to make some.
That's
We're
right.
going to make some like me. We have to. We have no choice. Brothers and sisters, thank you very much for being with us one more time. Tune in on Tuesday. Tuesday, we have Brother Bedford.
Dr. Ron Daniels.
Dr. Ron Daniels, the CEO of the Institute of the Black World, one of the most important Black think tanks in the Black world. So join us with Elder Dr. Ron Daniels.
Man.
We'll see you at the Power Network Conference, Dr. Harris. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.